Hi, I'm Claire Thompson and welcome to the FIPWiSE podcast. I have the pleasure of speaking to some of our inaugural FIPWiSE Rising Stars today. So exciting. Congratulations to you all. Now, I'm not going to do you justice by introducing you, so I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves, and then hopefully we're going to have a fabulous chat about your careers so far, the wins, the challenges, and hopefully some advice for future rising stars. Irene, could I ask you to go first?
Thanks, Claire. Hello, everyone. My name's Irene Om, and I'm an education-focused lecturer at the University of Sydney School of Pharmacy. So I'm based in Sydney, Australia.
Wonderful. Sarah, could you go next, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Sarah Diane Griffin. I'm a university lecturer in pharmacy practice at the University of Newcastle in New South Wales of Australia. I am also the FIP Community Pharmacy Section Executive Committee member, as well as nationally the Vice President of the Pharmaceutical Society of Australia's New South Wales branch. So thanks very much, Claire.
A pleasure. Sarira.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Dr. Sarira Eldon. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Sydney School of Pharmacy, also in Sydney in New South Wales in Australia. I'm a pharmacist, but I'm also a mental health first aid instructor. And I'm also, oh God, I'm also nothing. That's it. They can find that out, right?
I don't think that's true. You're all definitely phenomenal people. So also nothing is definitely not true. Sarira, let's stay with you. What does it mean then to be recognised as one of the 2022, the inaugural FIPWiSE Rising Stars?
Look, I think it means a lot. I am an early career researcher. I got awarded my PhD in 2018, but since 2014, since embarking on that journey of starting a PhD, I've been teaching and been involved in designing assessments and tutorials, and that's only increased in sort of volume and frequency over the last kind of 8 years as I've finished that part of my early career and gone into academia as a lecturer and then senior lecturer. So I think it just kind of makes me reflect on the last 8 years, and it makes me feel really proud, but and very honored to know that that work is not only valued by my professional community in Australia, but also internationally, and it makes me feel more driven to keep it going, especially with COVID. We've had challenges as academics and as pharmacists, and having this recognition of women in science and education really makes me feel driven and rejuvenated, I think, for what's to come.
Marvelous. We need all the energy we can get, don't we? Sarah, so how do you feel? How do you feel about being recognized as a rising star? Does it feel real?
It does feel real. Thanks, Claire. So I think it's really excellent that FIP have initiated the FIPWiSE Rising Star Awards, and obviously presenting today with my two fellow Aussies who have joined for this as part of this chat. So I guess to be recognised as one of the 20 women globally excelling in pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences, it's really humbling, I think, and also, as Sarira has kind of alluded to, that we as women have worked really hard to get to where we are. So I think that recognition is unreal. At the same time, I think it's also important that we do recognise and highlight other women as well within the profession who are really changing the status quo, pushing boundaries and stepping up as leaders. So there's definitely more than 20 women out there. I mean, there's so many others that should and could be recognised for this award. I think I also just wanted to highlight, Claire, that we know that the pharmacy profession is becoming increasingly diverse, and FIP have released a number of reports already predicting that by 2030, 71% of pharmacists will be female. And I think given this award, it's becoming even increasingly important that we support women in the profession and provide opportunities for succession planning, as well as in the training of pharmacists at an undergraduate and postgraduate level. So I also wanted to highlight as well that since becoming a mum, recently in the last 18 months, I've really gained a greater understanding of the barriers and challenges for women with family and child rearing responsibilities to be involved in the profession, not only in community pharmacy, but in academia and research and so on, to progress into and maintain pharmacy leadership positions. So it's not just in pharmacy. We know that the barriers are existing across the entire health workforce, but there must be I guess, a collective endeavour to do better in all industries. So that's why this award is so important to me, Claire.
I'm a big believer in not just shining a light on those who are rising and at the peak of their profession, but also shining a light on others as well. I hopefully do that as much as I possibly can. And congratulations on the little one. They start to become proper characters between like a year and 18 months. Yeah, it changes your energy level, doesn't it? And your focus.
Absolutely. It's 6 o'clock here in Australia and I'm totally ready for bed. But yes, absolutely it does.
Oh goodness. Irene, what about you? How do you feel?
Well, I feel slightly embarrassed, I think. At the same time, I'm really honoured just to be recognised amongst such other amazing female leaders in our pharmacy profession. I was a bit surprised, as I haven't really considered that my contributions in pharmacy education had much relevance at a global level. So I guess being nominated by someone I look up to and being recognised by the panel as well of amazing leaders, I'm truly grateful. I guess I'd like to take this opportunity to mention and recognise that it's because of many other women who inspire me and who have believed in me that I think that I'm here. It means a lot. I think there's great opportunities for us to work collaboratively globally in pharmacy education. And so I look forward to connecting with my fellow Rising Stars and building networks with other like-minded people who have similar interests as me.
Brilliant. I mean, we were, I had the pleasure of being on the review panel for all the applications that came in. My goodness, we were overwhelmed. You know, when you put these things together, I think, it's a brilliant idea. We should definitely do this. And then you start the process and think, will many people apply for this? And then all the applications came in. And, you know, I spent days reviewing them, just overwhelmed by how much, can I say young women? I think I must be at least 15 years older than the rest of you. How much early career women have achieved already, and the energy that you have seems endless. And the applications, they kind of jumped off the page. So, I mean, kudos to you all. Your responses are very, very humble. Irene, I can't believe that you're embarrassed, but I mean, it's phenomenal what you're achieving. Please keep doing that. And also the very strong Australian contingent. Is Australia doing something different to anywhere else in the world? Is there stuff that we should be learning from the country and the continent?
Don't think so.
So you guys are just brilliant. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm very familiar with Sarira and also Claire, and you know, it's 3 degrees of freedom in pharmacy. I haven't met Irene before, so it's nice to connect. But I think the 4 women from Australia in particular have you know, are fabulous in what they do, and they're all really leading in their own right. So I think it's great to be recognised.
There's strong networks and strong support systems for women already in Australia, or is it just that you guys have, you know, trailblazers and you're going to make it wherever?
I think there is. I think we also, you know, through our professional organizations, we've seen a lot of women, you know, I don't know the exact number of years, but I'd say maybe in the last kind of 10 to 20 years, especially take on senior leadership positions. And I guess for Sarah, Irene, and I, you know, we were probably quite junior in our studies or in our post Bachelor of Pharmacy life, seeing those women in those positions, not just in academia, but also in terms of pharmacy ownership and pharmacy policy. I think that makes you want to strive for reaching that level of success in your career and for your profession, and ultimately to improve patient care, of course.
Super. You all seem quite proud of what you've of becoming rising stars and what you're continuing to achieve in your career. So let's stick with that as a theme. Sarah, what are you most proud of? What's the achievement that you're most proud of so far?
That's a good question, Claire. I guess probably undertaking my PhD was definitely the most challenging aspect of my my career, but probably what I'm most proud of, I'd say. So my PhD research, for those listening, was really focused on the role of the pharmacist and the community pharmacist in self-care, and evaluating that impact in terms of their triaging ability and so on for minor ailments and a number of other conditions. But I guess during that time, I really learned that research was fundamental and really critical to providing an evidence base for pharmacy practice, and the services, remuneration aspects, influencing policy and extending models of care that we deliver. We have the potential to show the highly impactful work that pharmacists are doing. And I realized that through my PhD, combined with this, I mentioned earlier, becoming a mum and working towards my career ambitions in academia has been highly rewarding, Claire.
Wonderful. Irene, what about you? What are you most proud of?
I think taking on the role of the program director of the NEET Pharmacy Intern Training Program, especially in the first year, was probably my proudest moment in my career. That was back in 2017. I'd been shadowing and being mentored by my predecessor, the late Dr. Erica Sainsbury, who had originally implemented the program, and she'd made it a huge success at the University of Sydney. So I felt that there was like a lot of expectations to do a really good job, and also to fill her very large shoes. But being able to take this first cohort of interns through their pharmacy internship year, being able to contribute to their professional development and watching them transition from being a student to independent pharmacist was probably one of the most rewarding and proudest moments.
I mean, as educators, the impact that you have on the next talent pool to come into the professions is phenomenal. I mean, that's something that they'll never forget. Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I think mine is the same as Sarah in terms of the PhD, and not just I guess obtaining it, after 3 or 3.5 years of working on it full time, but I guess more in terms of the journey of the PhD, and even the decision to undertake one. For me, it meant moving again, and and that was a kind of a big challenge for me, and it was kind of at a time in my life where I wasn't really sure if I wanted to move again. I had done my bachelor in a different state, and moving again meant obviously relocating, but also starting social networks as well as professional networks from scratch. And looking back, I think it was one of the best decisions I ever made, and I was supported by my family and 3 amazing women, my grandmother and my mom and my sister, to do it. And even though they were but 2 out of 3 were at a distance supporting me, not physically in Sydney, where I ended up moving to. But I think the journey was just remarkable, and I was lucky to do it at Sydney Pharmacy School, where we have a very collaborative collegial environment. And I was 23, 24 at the time, and quite scared to move there. And everyone was very, I guess, nice. And I think the PhD, it just, other than obviously being a degree, it just opened so many doors. And I went to my first international conferences, one of which was the FIP conference, my first one in 2016 in Buenos Aires, and that was just so exciting to go to somewhere with 3,000 people working in different areas of pharmacy, and hearing about all that, and I think back at, 6 years ago with Seville coming up, and so many people, especially due to COVID, we haven't seen, and I'm very excited to see everyone. So I think without the PhD, at least for me, a lot of those things would not have been possible. So I think I'm most proud of, embarking on that.
Yeah, and you talk about luck. I'm not a believer in luck. I think it's pluck. You make your own luck. You're brave. You take risks. You do things. So I want to flip the next question then on its head. I have the privilege of hosting the FIPWiSE and Fearless podcast, and what I ask all our guests is about when have they been fearless? When have they thought, oh, I can't do that, and then been fearless and taken the risk and gone for it? So, if I may, Irene, can I ask you, when have you been fearless, and what happened as a result?
That's a really good question. I think there's been a few different times. I think professionally, I found my PhD quite challenging. So I think I had to be fearless in completing it. I think there were times when I thought, oh, I'm not going to get this done. I really struggled at times, especially like understanding the data analyses, and I suppose just trying to bring together the thesis at the end as well. And I suppose at that time, like a lot of changes were happening as well in my personal life. So I think just overcoming that, I think I did have to be a bit fearless. But I think just generally, I feel like many instances I walk into meetings or into forums where I think I do have to have a bit of a fearless attitude. Sometimes I feel a bit out of my depth, or sometimes I feel like I don't belong. So I think just having that sort of, I can do it, I'm here to learn something, and having that fearless attitude, that's how I suppose I lead day to day. So.
And what helps with that fearless attitude? What you walk into the meeting, you think, oh, I'm not sure about this. Do you have like physical armor that you wear? So I wear shoes, and my shoes and dresses, for me, that's part of my armor that makes me think, yep, I can do this.
Shoes help. I think shoes and a bit of posture helps, I think, standing tall. At the same time, I think I've been really, I suppose, fortunate in my career to have had such amazing women surrounding me. And I think their belief in me has really helped me to walk into those rooms and feel like, actually, like you do belong. Like it's okay to feel maybe you don't belong, but you actually do. You're supposed to be there. You're there to learn something, and that's okay. Even if you don't know anything at all, just walk away learning something from it. So I think having those people believe in me in that way, I think has really helped me sort of walk into those rooms and feel like I can do this.
Having those tribes of women, I call them the wonder of women around us that create the space for us to move into. I mean, it's been pivotal. It's still pivotal in my career. They're phenomenal people. Sarira, what about you? When have you been fearless, and what happened?
Well, I guess one kind of scenario that comes to mind is when especially as junior researchers and junior academics, there's often, someone in your school or in your faculty or your university or even internationally that you've read their papers or that you've heard their lecture or seen them at a conference or whatever it might be, who you kind of go, that's the expert in my field. And if I'm going to write a grant or I'm going to write a paper, or I might have a project that I, think it'd be great if this person could review it or collaborate or be a co-author with me. And for many years, I kind of, we all have those thoughts, I would assume. And I never really knew or thought, I thought, if you meet them opportunistically. And I remember this one time, there was someone that I thought, it'd be great if this person would be on this application with us. We've got a good team, but this person is so great in this topic and I wish we could invite them. And one of my colleagues said, well, do it. And I said, but I don't know them. And she said, well, draft an email, explain what it is, explain why they're a good fit and who you are, and just send it. And I said, just like that, like out of the blue, like we've never collaborated together before. And she said, you know, Sudhir, what's the worst case? They don't answer or they say no, but at least you've tried. And honestly, that was a very hard send button for me to push, but I did it. And that person was really nice and was very senior in their career and was very willing to be involved. And honestly, we've collaborated for the last kind of few years. So, you know, I think sometimes, I guess, taking the plunge and just reaching out, you'd be surprised. It doesn't work every time, but you know, for me, it's worked many times, even though I've been a bit scared to do it, scared what the response might be, or scared of a lack of response. But you know, what's the worst that can happen? So
and it never works if you don't do it.
That's right. That's right.
I can just imagine that. Exactly. I can just imagine time slowing down as you were going to press this.
Yeah, that's right. So just do it. Yeah.
Fabulous. Sarah, what about you? When have you been fearless?
Thanks, Claire. I can really empathize with Sarira there. I guess putting yourself out there is probably you know, a really key take home there for whoever's listening, putting yourself out there and being uncomfortable. So I always tell my fourth year pharmacy students that I'm teaching at the moment, we're running a leadership and management course in pharmacy, and what that looks like for them. You know, it's going to be uncomfortable for you. If it's not making you feel uncomfortable, then there might be something wrong. You know, it's leadership is uncomfortable. At times you're going to be uncomfortable in your career, but that's you know, where new doors, new opportunities open, and obviously that's all the fun of it.
Sarah, I wanted to loop back to the stat that you gave us earlier, which was by 2030, 70% of the pharmacy profession, 71% of the pharmacy profession is going to be female. And I would love to believe that would mean that we'd have an enormous upshoot in female leadership across the profession. But having seen the changes, my background is on pharmaceutical science and in the industry, having seen the minimal changes in women in leadership in the last 20 years, I don't have the massive amount of confidence that we will see significant increases in women in leadership between now and 2030. But what can we do to change? So what would you like to see change if we are to move towards gender equality in the field?
Yeah, thanks, Claire. I'm writing a paper on this at the moment, but I think there's a really I guess there's a deep imperative to understand the gender-based barriers and develop evidence-based strategies really to support the genuine involvement of women in pharmacy and pharmacy leadership. I guess to set the scene to start these critical conversations, I think we need to be navigating not only the benefits of having women in these positions, but the challenges as well, the potential progress that's been made, as well as the next steps needed for the profession to truly achieve gender equality. So this is an important discussion to be having, as we all know, but we really need to build on the momentum that we have and continue to grow and nurture that. But I guess we need to stimulate the discussions on the strategies to support women as well, and to implement and measure improvement in gender equality at all levels within the pharmacy profession.
Fabulous. And the FIPWiSE movement was started with an emphasis on engaging, inspiring and enabling women in pharmaceutical science and education to be the best that they can be. I know that this is one of the key imperatives for FIP is to support initiatives like this as part of Equity RX. So we all have our part to play in this, and I think shining a light on the wonderful people like you is certainly part of that. Irene, what would you like to see? What can we do? What more can we do?
I think it's important that we maybe look out for those young female students and to try to inspire them to become the leaders of tomorrow. I think there's a lot from mentorship, but also from sponsorship. I think in my career, I've had a lot of senior colleagues, also women who've sort of believed in my abilities and my capabilities, and that have led me to my success. And they may not necessarily have been immediate mentors of mine, but they've sort of put me up for things, or nominated me for things, or have suggested me to, to go forward to do things. And I think this sort of level of sponsorship, I think I've really benefited from in my career. So I think it's important that we look out for these young female students, and maybe to give them a leg up, give them the opportunities that they may not necessarily see for themselves, but we can see that they have potential. So I think that would really, really help with this, I suppose, moving towards gender equality in our field.
Yeah, just to echo, and I think again, something that Sarah said around leadership being difficult sometimes, and leadership should be difficult. That pressure is a privilege, and Irene, I completely echo that we should be using our platforms and our privileges for good to provide those spaces and those opportunities for the next generation. Sarah, what can we do about gender equality, and what impact would it have if we were able to attain more equity?
Yeah, look, I think I agree with what Irene and Sarah have said about this point. I think in relation to Irene's point about looking out for people as they enter, I guess, I guess the education system in the first year of pharmacy. These are things that we can do, and also touching on Sarah's point about being uncomfortable. I guess the thing is, if you get used to that quite early, I mean, at least in Australia, I would say the majority of people who go on to become pharmacists often start right after high school and go into a bachelor entry degree. So, you're 18, 19 years old. And if we create those avenues where you can join into things that allow you to practice in safe environments, those kind of, speaking about yourself, we've all had to learn how to do that perhaps a bit later on due to our roles in academia. But I think if there were avenues to do that earlier on, it wouldn't perhaps be so scary as you advance in your career, having to do it for the first time, without the support of having your university or your program or your teachers or mentors or whoever it may be supporting you. I also think an important point is having the support of men as well. Yeah. Seeing that they also recognize female leaders and females who are excelling. I think, of course, it's great that we have women supporting women, but we also want the men supporting us too, because they're out there and they're also, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Representing the profession. So they also need to be advocates for this as well, I believe.
And I love to hear you use the word advocate. I'm not, I hear men as allies or mallies used a lot. And I prefer madvocates. I think allies is too passive, and we need men within the profession and around us to be more active than that. So I love the word advocate. I'm really pushing for madvocate. Hasn't quite made it.
I think we just coined a new term.
It hasn't made it to the Oxford English Dictionary yet, but I don't know.
But Sarah can put it on Twitter, on TikTok.
Yes, Sarah. Yes, I will join TikTok just to give my 30-second ramble about madvocates. About madvocates. Yeah, definitely. Okay, I want to. The next question is around you as individuals. The next 5 to 10 years may seem like a long way off, but what's next for you? So, Irene, what's coming next? What would you love to achieve within the next, say, 5 years?
So we have a new degree starting at the School of Pharmacy at the University of Sydney next year. It's a really exciting time, I guess, for us academics over here. So as part of our new degree, we're proposing a new model of pharmacy internship in Australia. It's the first of its kind. So I guess in the next 5 to 10 years, I'd really like to make a significant contribution towards this, really looking at how to optimize work integrated learning, and really having our pharmacy students really being prepared, but also being the leaders of tomorrow, especially having greater involvement in the profession, in all the different healthcare sectors, especially because our profession in Australia is really growing at the moment and there's significant changes to come. So I'd like to support our students and also the school in that way.
Marvelous. Sarira, what about you? What's coming in the next 5 years?
Well, I work with Irene, so obviously I share her sentiments in terms of our new degree. I guess another thing that I'm very passionate about, and which is my key area of research, is around mental health education. And I, hopefully in 5 or 10 years, but maybe over the course of my career, what I would like to see is some formal recognition of a minimum standard of mental health education and suicide prevention training for pharmacists. And I'm really, I think we're taking great big steps, both nationally, but also internationally. I had the privilege of both co-writing and co-reviewing with other people, FIP's recent mental health handbook and knowledge and skills guide. And I think having that out there is so important, having our leading professional organization internationally also recognize that. So I'm really passionate about that and ensuring that our pharmacists in Australia and around the world have the knowledge and confidence through appropriate training and appropriate opportunities to practice those key skills, especially given the mental health burden in Australia and internationally, and especially with COVID, and what that's done to our global mental health.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the next pandemic. Well, mental health issues and also inactivity, and those two things are intrinsically linked. So having that as a toolkit for pharmacists on the front line, I think would be phenomenal too. So yes, please, I look forward to seeing that. Sarah, what about you? What's happening in the next 5 years? Where are we going to be seeing you?
Thanks, Claire. 5 to 10 years seems like a long way away, but I guess it's not, given that, the last couple of years with what's happened already. But I think that when I think about my next 5 to 10 years, I think, and I always come back to my vision of the profession, which I'd like to share with you before, because I think that will also shape my own next 5 to 10 years. So my vision is to achieve evidence-based change in pharmacy practice, a health system that's highly integrated with a trained pharmacy workforce using their full scope of practice to optimize health and economic outcomes for our patients. So I wanted to read that because everything that I do in terms of research and academia is centered on that vision. And so in the next 5 to 10 years, I hope that pharmacists are increasingly part of primary care, including close collaboration with other health professionals, particularly general practitioners. So in terms of where I see myself, I think building a research group to really work on that, continuing on the research trajectory that I've already established, but extending that further and really building on my vision for the profession. At the same time, training the next generation of pharmacists through their Bachelor of Pharmacy honours degree. And in terms of my professional roles, I think FIP plays a really critical role in the evolution of international pharmacy. So I would like to be able to contribute further in leadership at an international level and also locally and nationally. So that's where I see myself in 5 to 10 years, Claire.
Wow, wonderful. I mean, to have a vision of the profession that you align your own personal professional vision and achievements towards is phenomenal. I feel like I should do that. And I write that down as an action for myself. Amazing. I wanted to kind of turn to the Rising Stars application process itself. Did you apply yourselves, or did other people apply on your behalf? Sarah, did you apply yourself?
No, I didn't, Claire. I had 2 people nominate me. So I had a colleague from South Australia in another state in Australia nominated me that I've worked through within a professional organisation. And I also had a colleague that I met through FIP actually. She lives internationally and we've met and become familiar through collaboration in various research projects. So yeah, I was very lucky to be nominated by both of them.
Not lucky, surely not. But yeah, you've clearly had an impact on them. Sarira, did you apply yourself, or were you nominated?
For the FIPWiSE,
Rising Stars.
Oh yeah, no. To my knowledge, two of my colleagues who are mentors, and I guess two women that I really look up to in academia at the University of Sydney nominated me.
And Irene, did you apply, or were you nominated?
No, I was nominated as well.
Really?
To my knowledge, I think it was a senior colleague, Professor Priest Aslani, who nominated me. So
really, really interesting. So is there a reason why you didn't apply yourselves? I'll give you a bit of time to think about this, because when I was trying to raise the profile of the Rising Stars process and nominations, mostly because I thought, are we going to get people to apply? and then we were inundated, so I shouldn't have been worried. But the messages that I heard back resoundingly were, oh, I don't think I'm ready, I haven't done enough. So I wondered whether was there a personal barrier for you around thinking, no, I can't do this. Sarah, were you thinking of applying yourself? Was it not even on your radar?
To be honest, probably not, Claire. I mean, I think it's really unreal that I am. My colleagues nominated me for the award. It hadn't even crossed my mind to apply myself, and yeah, I don't think there was any real reason. I always think that, there's something about nominating yourself for an award that perhaps it's seen unfavorably, I guess, but I don't see any real reason why I couldn't or shouldn't have nominated myself. I think I was just somebody beat me to it.
No, we talk a lot within FIPWiSE about confidence in competence, and how women in general aren't great at that. We think, oh, if we're missing 2 of the aspects of a listed 10, no, we can't do it. It's not for us. Whereas men will typically go, I've got 4 of those, I'm going for it. so Sarira, were you considering applying and somebody beat you to, or did you think, not for me, can't do that?
No, I don't think I consciously went, I can't or won't apply. I think I don't know, I guess sometimes when I see the term, and I don't know if these were the exact words, but nominations, I feel that, it really should come from someone else to some extent. So I think there was a little bit of that, but then I don't know exactly how quickly after the first or second kind of promotional email, but I kind of got, I knew that my 2 colleagues who are quite senior and in leadership positions were going to. So I kind of, like Sarah, kind of went, well, that's great. So yeah.
Brilliant. And Irene, would you have applied if you weren't nominated?
To be honest, I probably wouldn't have. But I guess sort of like what both Sarah and Sarah have mentioned, I think once someone has sort of nominated you, like I do think that does really help with the confidence, Claire, what you spoke about with the confidence and competence. I think if someone senior who sort of believes in you thinks that actually you could get this, like go for it, I guess you sort of build that confidence and you don't have that as much doubt in yourself. So yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone who is considering applying for next year's Rising Stars? We're going to make this an annual thing, given how successful and how wonderful the Rising Stars are for the inaugural year. What advice would you give someone who is thinking, I might apply, but I've only got 8 of the 10 things? Irene?
I'd say go for it. You've got nothing to lose. I think sometimes just also it gives you an opportunity to reflect on what you have achieved so far. Even if ultimately you don't actually get the Rising Star Award, I don't think it really matters. It gives you an opportunity to reflect on, I suppose, your own career and looking back on maybe who has supported you, but also giving you, I suppose, maybe the inspiration to think about who you can inspire. So thinking about others as well. So I encourage everyone to go for it. Why not? You've got nothing to lose.
Super. Sarera, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess it's goes back to my earlier point about sending that email. So sometimes and also, as Irene said, just going for it, I guess. I also think having someone who may not always be a necessarily a formal mentor, but someone that you perhaps have a relationship with that allows for you to ask those questions and say, do you think I've got a chance? Someone who's perhaps further along the track in the career, I guess, progress than you. If you're feeling uncertain, because that's not uncommon and it's not strange, and that's all right. Just trying to figure out someone that in your circle or slightly outside of your circle, but who kind of gets what you're trying to do and what your vision is, asking them what their thoughts and discussing it with them before taking that jump, whether it's this award or another award. The thing is, I think if you've thought about it, it means you must think that there's something you've done that is, worthy of that recognition. So sometimes getting a little push or a little help from someone to demonstrate that impact can be really helpful.
Agreed, completely. Sarah, anything to add? What advice would you give to folk who are thinking about applying next year?
Yeah, thanks, Claire. I would say absolutely do it. Apply, whether it's yourself or whether you have, a mentor or somebody else that can apply on your behalf. I would certainly encourage that from anyone that's looking to apply for the award, or any women for that matter in pharmacy or pharmaceutical sciences. I think just to reiterate, Claire, that women in the profession are really stepping up as leaders in the profession, as they always have, but now even more so. They're carving out innovative paths, and they're advocating for women in our profession, as well as our profession more broadly. So having that opportunity as a FIPWiSE Rising Star to raise the bar, optimize the role of pharmacists in healthcare is really what is my take home from this award, is that we really have a platform, and we should use that platform to really showcase the inspiring women that are around us, both nationally and internationally.
Oh, totally agree. And just reflecting on what Irene said, if nothing else, it allows you to think about the things that you've achieved. I'm a big fan of celebrating success, especially the last few years when the world has been on fire. It's so important to take the positives and celebrate even the smallest of successes whenever they happen. So the ability to pause and reflect and look at what you've achieved is phenomenally important for your own professional and personal well-being. So yeah, fully supportive. Go for it. Irene, what about you? What would you like to shine a light on, either to raise its profile or to gather more momentum and more assistance?
So I think for me, what would be helpful is to call out and reach out to maybe other colleagues and who are working in the area of work integrated learning. I suppose in many pharmacy degrees around the world, we heavily rely on our preceptors and supervisors in various pharmacy practice settings to help with our students in terms of transitioning them from a student to a professional. So I'm working in this area in our new degree and looking at the new model of pharmacy internship in Australia. So I like to, I suppose, call out to people who are interested in this area in terms of sort of optimizing this learning experience for our students. I guess I'll take this opportunity to do a shout out to a couple of my PhD students. So Andrew Bartlett, who's working towards developing assessment of preceptor competencies, and also Daisy Chung, who's looking at wound care services in a community pharmacy setting. So please, if anyone's interested in those areas, I look forward to working with you and collaborating with you in the future. Thank you.
Super. You'll have a full inbox again as well. Sarah.
Yeah, thanks, Claire.
What do you want to shout about?
There's a number of things, but I guess just for to make it short and sweet, really. So the first is advocating. So advocating for the profession, for policy change, for remuneration, for a number of other things, but primarily those is advocating for the profession more broadly. Succession planning is really close to my heart, and I want to make sure that future leaders are best prepared as much as possible. So the succession planning for early career pharmacists is something that I'd like to champion through professional organisations, but also in my own practice. Research is, imperative to evidence-based change, and I mentioned my vision earlier, vision for the profession. Creating evidence-based change will obviously take that profession forward. And lastly, I think it's important to highlight that pharmacists have been particularly burnt out over the last couple of years. And so Sarira has commented on the mental health aspects, but really finding our groove again, I guess. We need that motivation, and we need to find those pinpoints, those passion points of what makes us tick and why we chose to do pharmacy in the first place. So I really wanted to use this to remind people of why we love pharmacy, but at the same time collaborating and meeting at FIP in Seville at the conferences, why that's so important to meet colleagues and connect again, and obviously just reminding people why we chose to do pharmacy in the first place.
Oh, wonderful. I've been so energized speaking to you. So not only how much you're contributing towards the profession as individuals, but also the three of you are focused on inspiring and creating platforms for the next generation. So you're thinking, okay, this doesn't end here. This movement needs to continue, and we need to make the spaces and create the environment for that next generation to succeed, sometimes fail, and have that supportive environment to do so. But I've loved this. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today, and I look forward to continuing to watch your careers continue to rise. I hope to see you in Seville at FIP Congress in September.